New Zealand entered this year with record low unemployment sitting at just 3.2%. However, the latest labour market figures due out later today. Can we expect this trend to continue? To discuss, I'm joined by Infometrics principal economist Brad Olsen. Good morning to you, Brad.
Good morning.
Record low unemployment. You get the feeling that's unlikely to change.
Absolutely. We are expecting the unemployment rate to continue to go further down. We know just how tight the labour market is at the moment. Infometrics expecting the unemployment rate to fall to 3.1%, but just about every forecaster I've seen is expecting it to go down. Some are talking about, a 2 point something. Realistically, you get a little bit worried when everyone is so forthright in their views that, you're going to go down. We know that at the start of the pandemic, we saw the unemployment rate fall when we all thought it was going to go up. But again, looking down through the numbers, what we do think there has been is more people getting into work, but also people who haven't been able to actually go out there and look for and be available to work and get into a job. Those people won't be counted as unemployed. And so I think with the Omicron effect, as well as a very tight labour market, the only direction realistically for the unemployment rate will be to go further down.
So what impact will it have long-term, Brad? How will that Omicron outbreak, as you've mentioned, continue to have an effect on our labour market?
We know that the first 3 months of this year has been relatively volatile for a number of businesses, with a lot of people working, but also at different points being unable to get into the office or to complete all of their roles. In fact, Infometrics estimates point to around about 300,000 people plus at the Omicron peak who were unable to work. They were either isolating at home with COVID or as close household contacts. And that has really disrupted activity. We know a number of sectors have said, look, I'd love to have more people on, but they are all off sick and I can't do quite as much work. A lot of that is helping to fuel inflation as well. So we'll get a bit of a read from today's numbers of just how many hours we've lost from Omicron. Gives us a bit of a feeling for where, just how much economic momentum New Zealand still has, but also just how much capacity we have to go further as we go through the rest of the year. Now that we're through the Omicron peak, now that we're thinking about trying to recharge the economic engine. So certainly expecting a hit. The question is how hard and how long and enduring that hit will be.
It seems like a vicious cycle, doesn't it? Because if you can actually secure, say, a builder, for example, you can't get the materials. So it's this awful kind of mouse wheel we're on at the moment. Key in all of this is wage growth. It's a long way off where many would like it to be.
Absolutely. And we know that we'll be expecting to see a bit more heat in those wage numbers with the unemployment rate so low, with the labour market generally so tight, with a brain drain even coming through. Businesses are crying out for staff. And if you want to not only get a new team member, but also keep your current levels of staff, as a business, you're going to have to start putting out a lot more money. We are expecting those wage pressures to have lifted. The question is by how much? And realistically, we're not going to see wages meet that 6.9% inflation rate we saw a few weeks back. And so realistically, again, households are going backwards, that they're earning more money, but they're not able to buy quite as much with that additional cash. A real concern there. But if we're not starting to see that underlying heat in the wage pressures today, we are going to start getting quite concerned about just how hard and how squeezed New Zealand households are becoming, because again, you're looking at a lot of workers who are, yes, getting into work, but realistically not making nearly as much money and being able to buy as much stuff as they previously did. The concern for Kiwi households is that this inflation squeeze becomes even harder as their wages don't adjust.
It could be a key opportunity, though, don't you think, Brad? Employees are in the box seat in some industries, driving up those wages, basically, and that's going to be a knock-on effect for the consumer in the end.
Absolutely, and we know that just how tight the labour market is at the moment, that you're right, that workers do have a lot more ability to think about moving around. In fact, over the last few months, underlying job growth has actually been slightly negative, as you do have people that haven't been able to turn up for work. You've got people starting to leave for overseas. So realistically, there's huge pressure on trying to find workers. And I think as an employer, you've got to be realistic that if you don't have the right people coming in the door, if you don't have enough staff, you can't do that business. You can't, build that thing or sell that good or service. So you are going to see, I think, that big pressure. Businesses will have to be looking at this. But again, if you're a business, you're taking on higher wage costs, you're going to have to look to pass that on. So it is going to be a challenge going forward, not only for the business sector, but also for consumers and households over how to balance all of those rising costs.
And that data for the labour market due out at 10:45 this morning. Infometrics Principal Economist Brad Olsen, good to chat this morning.